Morena, good morning. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Craig Stobo ho. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the 2021 Assembly of Investment Chairs. It's great that we can hold the meeting, albeit hybrid. We had planned in Auckland, but of course, in level 3.2, that's not possible. So welcome to those who can attend in Dunedin. Fantastic to see you there. And to our guests online, thank you very much. We have circa 200 people registered, so we're thrilled about this, meaning that we can get information out to our guests and our registrants. So that's great news. The topic for this year's assembly is ESG, Investing for Impact, and that follows the previous year's topics. 2019 was Opportunities and Pathways for Sustainable Investment, and 2020 was ESG, Investing for COVID Recovery. For those of you who are not aware, the Assembly of Investment Chairs is a unique event. Its purpose is to deliberately and predominantly provide benefits to chairs of investment committees, and those chairs may come from organisations principally from not-for-profits, iwi, community trust organisations. And the purpose is to improve your knowledge and ability to ask the right questions in your investment committees around how the funds are invested and how they match the liabilities that those groups have. The genesis was the joined-up thinking of Otago Business School's Climate and Energy Finance Group, commonly called CEF Group, and New Zealand's largest investment committee, as I like to call them, the New Zealand Superannuation Fund. And it serves the purposes of both organisations to provide education to investment chairs, and the belief that by doing that, you'll improve the performance of your committees. The hosts today on screen are initially myself, and then Sebastian Gericke, who's Deputy Director of Climate, Energy and Finance Group at Otago Business School, and then Professor Robin Gould, who's Dean of the Business School, who will close the presentations later today. The sponsors are the New Zealand Superannuation Fund, which has a long-standing commitment to responsible investing, believing that ESG factors are material to long-term returns, and ESG considerations are therefore integrated into the funds, all funds aspects of its investment activities, from investment selection and due diligence to ownership activities such as monitoring external managers, examining voting rights, and engaging with companies to try and improve ESG outcomes for them, but also for NZ Super Fund and by default the beneficiaries of the fund, which are New Zealanders. The second sponsor is the Climate and Energy Finance Group, the CEF Group, which is a founding member of the Global Research Alliance for Sustainable Finance and Investment, or the acronym GRASFI, and also together with the New Zealand Superannuation Fund is a founding member of the One Planet Sovereign Wealth Fund research group, placing the business school at the forefront of international climate finance research. And the third sponsor today is Precinct Properties, who's New Zealand's largest owner of inner city real estate in Auckland and Wellington, places where clients of Precinct Property Group and people that use the facilities that they own can thrive. And by way of disclosure, I'm the director and chairman of Precinct Properties. So the speakers today, and you will have seen the bios on their website, very extensive. I'm just thrilled, absolutely thrilled that we've got these speakers today. And you're welcome to dive in and out of the speakers if you're online, as you see fit. We have changed the format to meet the hybrid requirements, which is very hard for those of us who've been online for over 100 days to expect people to focus on listening for the whole day. And so we are not going to be offended if you decide to duck out, have a coffee, walk the dog, etc., and come back into presentations that you want to hear. And of course, because it's recorded, you will be able to go back if you wish, because of overlapping commitments, to hear speakers that you weren't able to hear. So we've moved away from panel discussions to a sequence of speakers. So I just want to acknowledge those speakers today by reading their names and their positions, etc. So Grant Robertson, Minister of Finance, will shortly be opening the Assembly. He'll be no stranger to all of you. Sean Kidney, co-founder and CEO of the Climate Bond Initiative. Ray Thompson, co-founder and managing director of New Ground Capital. Richard Hilder, CFO of Precinct Properties, who've recently issued a green bond. Craig Wise, CEO of New Zealand Green Investment Finance. Craig is on his way back from COP26 in Glasgow, and I'm pretty sure he'll be in MIQ as we speak. Nicola Nation, CEO of the Akina Foundation. Rinta Blair, head of the Maori Sector and Relationship Group at the BNZ. Rinta is part of Ngāti Whātua in Auckland. Maria English, CEO of Impact Labs. Anna van Paddenberg, a green growth professional. Lucas Kingmana, Senior Investment Strategist at the New Zealand Superannuation Fund. Johanna Dodds, Responsible Investment Manager at ACC. Florian Berg, who's a postdoctoral associate at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, will be dialing in from overseas. Barry Coates, CEO and founder of Mindful Money. Matt Winneray, the CEO of the New Zealand Superannuation Fund. And Chris Douglas, who's principal at My Fiduciary locally, will conclude the proceedings with some summary thoughts before Professor Robin Gould concludes. So just some procedural issues before we wait for the Minister to attend the meeting. Firstly, we intend to enable questions to be answered through the sessions. What we request you to do is use the chat function on the screen that you have available to you, and I will do my best in my session and subsequently Seb in his sessions to answer those questions. If we don't get the time available, we'll have to make sure that we sort those questions as we see fit as MCs for the session. So we do apologise in advance if not all the questions are answered. Secondly, throughout the day or at certain intervals, we'll be pushing out some polling questions just on ideas that you might want to respond to. They're not compulsory, but they're ways to stimulate your thinking through the day. And finally, for those who are in the meeting, of course, physically, you're most welcome to ask questions yourselves. We will be taking breaks through the day, as normally we would in a physical setting, and just make sure that we will dial back in at the appropriate times, but I'm sure Seb will make sure that's all run pretty well. So I'm just going to wait, unless there are any questions on the day, wait for the Minister to dial in and then we can get underway. Are there any questions at this stage? Good as gold. Okay, we'll just hold the line till the Minister dials in the next few minutes.
Thanks, Craig. Hey, Craig, while we wait, there has been a couple questions for you, actually, if you want to open up the Q&A. I think you're on mute, Craig.
Okay, thank you, Seb. So the first question is, how has the market received the precinct green bond? Let's ask Richard Hilder that question in his session. The second question is insights to how the themes you've chosen have changed over time as ESG market has matured in New Zealand. Very early days for ESG in New Zealand relative to the sophistication of markets, for example, in Europe. One of the questions we've got in front of us today is obviously impact investing, and the feedback from investment committees over the last couple of years has been trying to understand how to make the impact. So everyone understands the long-term benefits of focusing on ESG. The question in front of many investment committees is just show me the difference, show me the impact. And today's assembly is trying to address that question. How do we move the dial so that we do have an impact? And so you'll see more and more comment coming from the regulators such as the FMA around how green is your green bond? Is it a light green or is it a dark green? Which goes to attestation around the quality of the assets that are being earmarked for pools of green capital. Are they truly green? Are they just rebranded from black, brown to green because they can be? Or have new investments occurred that have substantially changed the emissions profile, for example, in the e-space? Or have they improved social outcomes in our communities? Or have you seen a remarkable change in the way governance occurs and transparency for investors who are looking at the G in ESG? So I think we're still evolving, and the pressure is going to come, I think, from investors who will be asking these questions to fund managers and to securities that they invest in. I think that's probably help you answer that question, John.